All right, we are back, and we are going to go now and say a very good morning here to the honorable member for Lake Melville, Keith Russell. Good morning, buddy.
Good morning, Randy. How you doing?
Are you tired?
Not too bad, buddy. Not too bad. Actually got a couple extra hours this morning, so I'm feeling quite chipper, actually.
Excellent.
I just wanted to call in and say that, look, this is certainly getting the attention of the people, and that's a good thing. I just got to say I'm appalled at the way that we're being presented now in terms of our province. You know, the prosperity we have, the legislation we have, the government we have, and here we are being now presented, and we're giving the people outside of Newfoundland and Labrador here, and even the people in the province, the wrong impression that we're behind countries like Mexico and Ethiopia and Bulgaria and Uganda in terms of the way that we're handling our legislation.
Yeah, but maybe you are.
No, we're absolutely not. We have so much legislation. We have so many ways. Look, just in terms of safety, I mean, just that and that alone, in terms of how our people are allowed to interact with our government and the way that our people live here, this is insane. I got to say, I'm just appalled at the way that the oppositional parties will then grab onto that. And I think you had a caller on earlier this morning, and God love her, she said it best. This is about whipping up the people. We're in a situation here in Newfoundland and Labrador, Randy, where we're experiencing unprecedented prosperity, and this is only getting better. The track record of our government is great. And I tell you what, to continuously whip up the people and to imply that we're doing something sinister as a government and that we're doing things wrong and that
I can tell you this though, Keith. I can tell you this. Anytime a government wants to bring in a piece of legislation that limits public access to anything, the government invites the people of the province to not trust them. Doesn't matter how fair. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that your legislation is in any way unfair. I'm not even going to say it's inappropriate. I don't know. I feel like it's bad legislation based upon the fact that I'm hearing that things that have happened in the past where public disclosure had led to outcomes, both good and bad, that public disclosure under this new regime, under this new piece of legislation, would not take place. If that's the case, then this is just bad legislation. But no government, Keith, can sit there, yours included, can sit there and think you can bring in a piece of legislation at any time for any reason and argue that it's going to limit public access and that somehow that's good. It just won't wash, Keith.
Yes, but you're talking about focusing on the bad, and I tell you what, that's what this is all about, is about focusing
No, it's not. No, it's not.
But I tell you what, where we are right now, this particular piece of legislation talks about, 460 bodies that this affects. We're talking about protecting the privacy of individuals as well, Randy, and that's been lost in all of this. What we're seeing is people now stirring up the public and whipping up people against our government, trying to say that this is about one thing and one thing only. All we've heard in the House, the only thing we've heard is about secrecy, it's about sinister activity, it's about implying that our government and our cabinet is doing something wrong, and I seriously take offense to that, and so does our government.
Well then, don't Pat. Well then. Okay, how would you respond to? Well, that being the case, then. And you find this particularly insulting, and I can appreciate that, and hear me out, and I can appreciate that you would, right, find it that way. Given that last year, according to the reports that I'm reading and hearing, there were only 581 requests anyway. Some of them may even have been, as it is termed, a little vexatious. We're having fun with those words these days. Why don't you all right, so if you're so concerned with it, given there was only 501 of these applications anyway under Freedom of Information over every single government department, it was only 581. So why don't you eliminate any doubt in the mind of voters that this government could be sinister, or that its government coming could be sinister, or that this is a government wants to deny public access to information. They're trying to hide stuff. Why don't you put all that BS away and simply withdraw this legislation? Live with what you got.
Look, this is about strengthening the legislation here, Randy. It's not about. People say we're regressing.
How does it strengthen the legislation? How does it strengthen the legislation?
Going forward now, in terms of what our government is doing, we're trying to outline not only 1, 2, 3 years out. We're looking at improving the quality of life for the people in this province for years to come, generations to come. In order to do that,
Keith, forget all of that forget all that hyperbole for a second, because that's all that is. We're doing this for the future generation. It's all crap.
Listen to me.
Listen to me. You tell me how it is beneficial to anybody that information that was made available under the current act that has led to the unique discussion we've had over Burton Winters, that has led to things like public inquiries, that has led to things like the scandal, the spending one elsewhere. You tell me how tightening the legislation so that thousands of records that are now available to the public will no longer be available to the public in the future, and you're giving the minister the power of omnipotence. He'll be the one who says who gets to read or gets to see what or don't. You tell me how that's got anything to do with our prosperity today or in the future.
Okay. Now, look, I don't see it that way at all, Randy. We've got numerous officers in the House of Assembly that perform like an oversight role. We've got other pieces of legislation. I mean, we've got the Assembly Accountability Integrity Administration Act. We've got the Auditor General, the Citizens Representative, the Child Youth Advocate. It's not only about one little piece. To focus on one little piece and say that this is where all of it lies is not the way it should be. The point I want to make today, Randy, is to come out. If you've seen what happened in the House and you've seen the grandstanding and the fear-mongering happening in the House, if you've seen Lorraine Michaels stand up and imply that the Minister of Justice had the essence of racism, I mean, my God, what a thing to say in our House of Assembly.
What?
That's not fear-mongering. And I mean, the fire, that was the most fire I've seen from Lorraine Michaels since I've been in this House, Randy. And to talk about other countries with that fire. And I'll tell you what, the people from those countries, we have residents here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Certainly we do. And they're most welcome. But the bottom line is this. The fire in your heart should be for the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. It should certainly be first and foremost for the people that are from here.
Well, you know, the Centre for Law and Democracy,
Mm-hmm.
Canadian organization, they're basically saying that the legislation that we are proposing to put forward and pass now will leave us with a Freedom of Information and Public Protection Act that will not be as strong, as open, or as transparent as the one that they currently enjoy in third world countries like Guatemala and Uganda. So tell me, just because you say it, right, doesn't make you the evil one, does it? What if it happens to be true?
Oh my goodness! How could you even consider that, Randy?
Well, because Democracy Watch, the Center for Law and Democracy in this instance, all right, the organization that put out this stuff is a credible organization. That's why.
But those countries being mentioned, Randy, they certainly do not provide all the protections that we certainly do for our citizens.
I agree.
Democratically, in terms of human
safety,
as I mentioned before, just to name a few.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that you're saying, but it still comes down to this. If all of it is nothing, if all of it is nothing, and we're just looking at this little part, and it's only a bit of housekeeping, and it's causing such a fuss, tell me, Keith Russell, why are we not do it then? I don't understand why you made this rod for your ass. I don't know what you prove by doing this. Politically, it's fascinating.
Politically, indeed, it is fascinating. I got to say, as a brand new member too, to actually to hear of the whole concept of a filibuster and to go into sittings, day in, day out, and especially now with us 2 and 3 days in a row, it has been certainly a unique experience. I got to say, and one that I'll certainly take with me.
Yeah, well, you can say you've participated in history
in and of itself, Randy, but to watch how these things go and how legislation such as this gets vetted through the House, it certainly was an interesting thing, and I got to say I'll be a better representative of the people for it.
I listened to one of Newfoundland's most respected journalists the other day. I think he's one of Newfoundland and Labrador's most respected journalists, Russell Wengerski. And would you agree he is? He's a highly respected journalist in our community. Would you?
I'd certainly say yes.
All right. I listened to him, and the words that he used at the end of an interview, because they're very concerned over this. The word he used at the end of an interview that was being conducted with him is that in actual fact what the Newfoundland government is proposing to do is to gut this legislation, that in reality the doors will close, this act is dead. And that's kind of the words he used. Shouldn't that be a signal to everybody, all 48 members, forget party, to all 48 members that there's an issue here bigger than just you guys yelling at 1 o'clock in the morning?
The yelling at 1 o'clock in the morning, yeah, that's certainly an issue. To me, That's being a little bit dramatic about in terms of our legislation here. We got to focus on the good stuff. We've got to focus on our poverty reduction. We've got to focus on our violence prevention. We've got to focus on inclusion of person with disabilities. We've got to focus on prosperity, Randy. We've got to focus on our energy plan for this province, Randy.
In the future, though, Keith, the disturbing piece.
Of life for people in Newfoundland and Labrador.
I hear you. I'm not going to let you get on with the hyperbole because I'm going to get to the point with you. I want to look at all of that with you. I want the freedom to get the information whenever I ask for it, so I can look at your poverty programs, not through your lens, through mine. And what you're telling me now, as I understand it, which is a very grave concern to me, I guess, is that we're bringing in a piece of legislation that shuts down the Freedom of Information Act to a great degree, and from now on, everything that you see will be seen through a government filter. Keith, even if that's not true, and you can argue with me that that's not true.
That's certainly not true.
All right. The fact that I feel that way, and by the way, I think the majority of the people in the province feel that way, why wouldn't you pull it back then and not do it?
Well, I tell you what, the fact that people feel that way, it does speak to one thing, is that, when we did consultations on this particular piece of legislation, there was a very, very low turnout. I believe for 8 locations, we maybe had 10 bodies in there to ask questions and get involved. You do bring up one great point here, Randy, too, and it's about education of the people and about getting information out to people in terms of how they're going to interact with our government and legislation. Yes, and that's true. And we can always continuously strive to do a better job with that. I mean, if people are feeling a certain way, by all means, engage your MHAs, engage your government, get together with the people that are your representatives and share your concerns. When people, and I'll give you one specific example.
Well, I can't take it. It's 10:59, and I'm going to say goodbye to you.
All right, Brandy.
I'm sorry, Keith Russell, the honourable member for Lake Melville. A great debate, by the way. You and I could have been entertaining in that filibuster. You have a good weekend, buddy.
I'll tell you what, we'll get right into it hot and heavy as soon as I call back.
All right, we'll chat again. Thanks for this, buddy.
All right, Randy.
Take care. Bye-bye. That's the honourable member for Lake Melville.